Hello folks, welcome to this video, and here I'm going to be giving you a review for Marmaris Valley, Turkey, round 11 of this season's World Rally Championship. And I'm going to be looking a bit back to my preview as well, to draw a couple of comparisons. And, well, let's start off by talking about the 10th place finisher, Gus Greensmith, and as a result the support series, because it's not something that we particularly talk about as much in WRC reviews. Gus Greensmith managed to bring home the overall R5 lead after a front left drive shaft failure for Kajtan Kajtanovic with 2 stages left. However, Kaito is now the joint leader of WRC2 alongside Nikolai Grajin, and Grajin has got the R5 Evo Fabia next time out in Rally GB. In WRC2 Pro, Greensmith brought home a victory by 30 seconds over Jan Kopeshki, despite the fact that Greensmith had a massive roll coming out of the penultimate stage. Kai Rotopera finished third, which is a solid finish for him, and almost entirely wraps up WRC2 Pro for him. But it wasn't really a great event for Calais, having had a role in the Friday stages, as well as having to retire for getting a triple puncher, meaning that he wasn't actually able to complete the leg because he didn't have any more spares. And let's get from there on to talk about the main event, and talk about a couple of little points that I didn't really think I was going to be. Firstly, let's talk about the rally winners, Sebastian Ogier and Citroën, and also talk about the fact that Esa-Pekka Lappi finished in second place. And compared to 12 months ago, for Citroën as well as its 2 drivers, this was fantastic. 12 months ago, Esa-Pekka Lappi retired from the rally. Sebastian Ogier managed to bring it through to the end by having to super rally after having repaired the car, then following that going off on the next stage. For Citroën, their highest finisher was 23rd place, Mads Osberg, who also had to super rally, whilst Craig Bean's car caught fire and burnt to a crisp. To see them on the top step, and for their first 1-2 under the leadership of Pierre Boudard, it's spectacular for them. The last time they got a 1-2 was Chris Meek's first win in 2015, with Mads Osberg coming home in second place. And it's the first time that we've had 2 different teams get 1-2s back to back since that time in 2015, when, following that victory for Chris and the second place for Mads, Volkswagen delivered a 1-2-3 in the following round. It's weird to think that in an era like this in the WRC, we're talking about how competitive everything is. 1-2s are so infrequent, and not only that, but 1-2s for teams that were supposedly dominant previously, like Citroën, are also infrequent. And in addition to that, the fact that whilst we're saying they're all competitive and we have so many different winners, we haven't had 2 manufacturers in 4 years get 1-2s back to back. We always have, if there's a consecutive 1-2, it's going to be the same team. It's really weird. It's also really weird to see Ogier having gone this long without a win. The last time he won was in Mexico, which you'd think would be quite different for a 6-time world champion, but he's always been up there, competing and finishing very, very high up in the standings, even in rallies such as Corsica, where he managed to just scrape through a podium in the end, despite not actually winning stages. And that is very much the story for Citroën. I don't know whether to say that they're pretty much secure in 3rd place, but it seems like they're secure in 3rd place in the manufacturer's standings. Though we'd have to see if Ford was able to pull off some masterclass in the final 3 rounds. But as for Ogier with the championship, he's now 18 points behind Tanak. And this is something I'm going to talk about a bit more when I'm talking about Toyota as well. But it could go very well for Ogier. He did very well in the last few rounds last season. We've seen that the Citroën is also very good on gravel. And whilst it might not be great on tarmac, the one rally that it has won every time it's competed is actually in Spain, because Chris Meek brought it home for a win in 2017 and Sebastian Loeb brought it home for a win last season. I wouldn't be surprised if Ogier does that again this time around. But then let's talk about Toyota. The team that got a 1-2 here last season only brought home 6th and 7th with Tanak out of the points. It was spectacular last season given the fact that we thought the Toyota was such a fragile car. But this time around, it did actually reinforce this kind of stereotype that it is the more fragile of the 4 teams. All of them picked up punches, which is what eventually put them further down the order. But Tanak had an ECU fault, which ruled him out partway into the second leg. And it's a massive shame for Oit. It's really dented his championship lead. But it's also weird because we're talking about a weekend where it appeared that that Hyundai and Ford have sort of withdrawn from talks about signing Oit to their team. So it seems like he's going to stay with Toyota. You can't say whether or not this is going to be any kind of like bad omens for what's coming forward, but it is weird that in that weekend, Toyota develop yet more faults and bring home the realization that they still do have a car that isn't as durable on the tough events. However, that's not to say that Hyundai have been faring much better either. Even though they did beat Toyota and managed to get a good finish in 3rd and 5th, with Mikkelsen finishing 3rd and Sordo finishing 5th, and Neuville bringing home 8th place after that roll, it still hasn't been a spectacular weekend for them. You have to feel like Andreas has been doing a brilliant job this season, especially when it seemed like his drive was under massive threat. His contract's up at the end of the year, and he didn't even do the full calendar this time around because Andrea Adamo rested for events because he wanted lineups that were going to be Sordo and Loeb in the tarmac rallies. But Andreas has been proving that he deserves a drive. I mean, to be fair, it was never really up for question. The question is there anyone else who also deserves a drive who currently doesn't have a drive? And we'll see that next time around when Craig Breen is going to be in the I-20 for Wales Rally GB. But Sordo brought home a good finish as well, in 5th place. And if it hadn't been for punches for him as well, he would have been right up there. The Hyundais have managed to prove that they were able to outdo Toyota when the going got tough. They now have a 19-point lead in the championship, whereas Oit Tanak has an 18-point lead in the Drivers' Championship. And that's where I want to bring on this kind of closing note. Last time out in Germany, when Toyota got a 1-2-3, I asked, was the championship over? And I asked, was it likely that Toyota were going to do the double? Part of me said, at the time, we need to watch out for what happens in Turkey, because it's known as a car-breaking event. And Toyota didn't fare as well this time around as they did last time around. I think there is still every possibility they could do the double, especially because you've got 3 rounds left and they could be very fast ones. However, these are also events where the Hyundais and the Hyundai talent has done quite well. Hyundai also answered another question from my previous videos, which was, what are they going to do when Thierry Neuville's down the order? I said, in the last time I was talking about this, I wouldn't be surprised if Andreas and Danny were so high up in the order and Neuville was looking to gain a few extra points that they didn't sacrifice their drivers and decided that they were going to benefit the Manufacturers' Championship. And that's what I did this time. It's definitely interesting. And it's what I kind of expect. Thierry is now 30 points behind Oit Tanak. That's a round in hand with a maximum score from the power stage as well. Whilst OJ's 18 points behind, I think it could be the end of Neuville's title challenge. And it again has come in Turkey. What remains to be seen though is if he has amazing form over the last few rounds. Like I said, it's 30 points. He could gain 10 points a round. If he won and Tanak was second, and then he gained a couple of extra points over Tanak on the power stage, you could do that 3 times out and come out as champion. Though I think it is more likely that if any of the challengers are going to challenge Tanak to the title, it's going to be Ogier. Ogier has got amazing form, and he always has. There's a reason he's a 6-time world champion. And he's getting the C3 to work. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What I can definitely say, though, is I think it's going to go down to the wire. I know I'm saying that, and this prediction is probably going to be proven wrong because somebody's going to win the title in Spain. But it's now mathematically impossible for Oit to win the title in GB. I think it's going to go down to the wire again. I think it's going to be decided down under. I wouldn't be surprised if it was all 3 drivers still in the running. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we came into it with 2 drivers in contention and they were level on points. Though I do think Hyundai will pick up the manufacturer's title if Thierry doesn't win the driver's title. And those are my thoughts. If you want to have any discussion about this, do that in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.